to this day, Juan Soto is still one of the most underrated players in all of baseball. It's hard to believe that this guy's done everything that he's done and he is still only 22. When you look at most major league players, many of them really don't get called up until they're 22 or maybe even 23. There is an exception for some players like Juan Soto, special young talents who do get called up as a teenager. But for the most part, most major league players don't even make their debut until they're 22 or 23. And what Juan Soto has done up to this point in his career as a 22-year-old now is just unreal. So let's start by going back to his rookie season back in 2018. As a 19-year-old, he got called up and produced. In 116 games, Soto had 22 home runs and 70 runs batted in. And those numbers are just unheard of from a 19-year-old in the big leagues. Soto was in the Rookie of the Year conversation all year in the National League, but ultimately came in second place behind Ronald Acuna Jr. It was a disappointment for Soto not winning this National League Rookie of the Year because just how special he was. He just so happened to be in the same rookie class as Ronald Acuna, who, as I said before, just had a monster rookie year. Fast forward to 2019, and this is the year that Juan Soto really put his name out there. As a 20-year-old, Soto played in 150 games. He hit .282 with 34 bombs and 110 runs driven in. The Nationals will ultimately end this season at 93-69, good enough for the first wildcard spot in the National League. They would face off against the Brewers, where they found themselves down 3-1 in the 8th inning. But Juan Soto stepped up, and with the bases loaded, he roped a single into right field off of Josh Hader, driving in 3 runs as Trent Grisham misplayed it in the outfield. And this hit would prove to be critical as the Nationals would hold on and win this game 4-3, advancing to the National League Division Series. And in the Division Series, the Nationals would match up against the LA Dodgers, where they would win that series 3-2, and they would move on to the NLCS, where they swept the Cardinals in 4 games. And the Nationals would ultimately end up beating the Astros in 7 games to capture their World Series championship. And Juan Soto would be a huge part of the Nationals' success in the 2019 postseason, as in 17 games he hit .277, had 5 home runs, drove in 14, and had a .927 OPS. And oh yeah, this guy was 20 years old at the time. Fast forward to 2020, and Juan Soto had yet another amazing season. Keep in mind, this was the shortened 60-game season, and if it weren't a shortened season, Juan Soto may have won the National League MVP. In 47 games, Juan Soto led the league, hitting .351, had 13 home runs, 37 driven in, stole 6 bases, and led baseball with an .1185 OPS. And that leads us up to this year, where Juan Soto is just having another great year. As a 22-year-old this year, he has played in 143 games. He's hitting .324, 109 runs, 29 bombs, 92 driven in, and 9 stolen bases. To go along with that, he leads all of baseball with 135 walks. He also has a .1028 OPS and a 7.3 WAR. So clearly, Juan Soto is one of the most disciplined players in all of baseball at such a young age. And Juan Soto this year, as I said with the numbers before, he's having a great season this year, and I just feel like he's being completely underrated. I mean, this guy is special, and I just feel like he is not getting the respect that he deserves. He's putting up historic numbers. He's done stuff some major league players have never done in MLB history. He's only 22 years old, and he's going to continue to get better. Now, this year, one reason why I think not many people are talking about Juan Soto is because of the Nationals' 64-90 record. They're clearly heading into rebuild mode at this point, as they traded away some key pieces in Trey Turner and Max Scherzer over to the Dodgers. So for the foreseeable future, the Nationals don't look to be going anywhere. But they do have one of the brightest young stars in the game in Juan Soto, who you never know, maybe he could take them somewhere in the next couple seasons. But going back to Juan Soto being underrated, I think it is obviously partly because of the Nationals' record this year. He got plenty of recognition in 2019 when he had a great postseason, led the Nationals to the World Series. But in terms of his career so far, not many people are talking about him. And I think the main reason with this is because he is compared to players like Ronald Acuna Jr., Fernando Tatis Jr., all of these guys who are a little bit more personable than him, I guess you could say. I mean, Fernando Tatis Jr., in my opinion, is the most exciting player to watch in all of baseball. Ronald Acuna is right up there with him as well. Most definitely, both of these guys are in the top 5 when you're talking most exciting players in baseball. And for Juan Soto, he's not necessarily as exciting as these other players he's being compared to. I mean, when looking at Juan Soto, people always compare him to Tatis Jr. and Acuna Jr., and many people prefer Acuna or Tatis over Soto simply because they are just so much more exciting and appealing to the young fans. And for this reason, Juan Soto is just not getting the recognition he deserves. He is an amazing ball player. He is one of the brightest young stars in baseball today, still only 22 years old. And I think he deserves a lot more credit than he has been given, especially this year. I mean, behind Bryce Harper and Fernando Tatis Jr., I think Juan Soto could arguably be third in the NL MVP voting right now. I know you could obviously put guys like Corbin Burns, Freddie Freeman, guys on better teams, but in terms of just an individual stat line, Juan Soto is up there with the best of them. And he's clearly one of the most talented players in all of baseball. Most of the numbers don't even speak for themselves. They don't speak to how disciplined Juan Soto is at the plate and just how advanced of a hitter he is at such a young age. So while Juan Soto is not necessarily the most exciting player in the world, he is definitely one of the best. And that's what brought me to making today's video. I looked at his numbers today and I was like, oh my God, no one is talking about this guy. He's having another ridiculous season. Unfortunately, like I said, the Nationals aren't competing, but this guy is having a monster year and just not getting any recognition for it at all. But anyways, that is going to wrap today's video up. If you guys do enjoy the content, feel free to subscribe. I post plenty of baseball videos and I'm going to continue to do so going forward. And as always, I want to thank you guys again so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.